Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, but Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Today we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 110, 7:15 a.m. It aired on January 22nd, 2012. The story was written by our showrunners, Eddie and Adam, and the script was written by Daniel T. Thompson. So before we go into our chatting and recapping, and Lauren has a lot of things for this one because she watched this episode twice, let's do a synopsis for the episode before we get into that. In the Enchanted Forest, it's been over a month since their last meeting, and neither Snow nor Charming can get the other out of their heads. Whether it's wedding preparation or solitude in the forest, the strength of their connection lives on. Charming writes to Snow, hoping that if she loves him the way he does her, they can run away together and be happy. When Snow goes to tell him of her feelings, she's captured by King George's guard and thrown in the dungeon alongside Grumpy. After she's set free, George offers her a deal: freedom and safety for the both of them if she tells Charming she doesn't love him, so he can fulfill his duty by marrying Abigail. She can't be the reason he dies, and breaks her own heart to save his life. And in Storybrooke, a storm is brewing in Storybrooke, and everyone is on edge for more reasons than one. The stranger has been around Storybrooke, showing an interest in Henry that concerns both Regina and Emma. And Mary Margaret might still have more feelings for David than she's willing to let on, as she tells Emma how she goes to Granny's every day at 7:15 because it's a chance for her to see him. Trapped in the terrible storm while trying to return a dove to her flock, Mary Margaret and David admit they still have feelings for each other, despite the fact that Catherine thinks she might be pregnant. They agree that it's time to try and move on until fate intervenes. The next morning, they both still end up at the diner, but at a different time, in an attempt to avoid each other. Yet fate has a way of pushing them to find one another, no matter what.
That was a synopsis.
That was just okay. There's a correlation. I feel like with like how much I enjoy the episode with how long our synopsis
I've
is.
noticed that. If you really like the episode, the synopsis is longer.
Yeah, but like there's so much going on in this episode. I didn't want to make this like as vague as leave the other ones
Mm-hmm.
because like with like True North, there wasn't a whole lot that was like
Yeah,
super relevant.
it was Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, it was the Hansel and Gretel story. It was fairly episodic. This one is like main A plot focused, right? So you want to start with your notes because I will be honest, I have a lot of them because this is one of the episodes that has audio commentary on the DVDs, and unsurprisingly to most people, I have all 7 seasons on DVD. So I watched this once without commentary and once with, and the commentary is done by Ginny and Josh.
Which I remember you texting that they were pretty much just flirting the whole time.
The entire time is them flirting because I think I figured out based off of a comment that Josh made about something that they had been filming recently. I figured out roughly what episode they were filming when they recorded the audio commentary. So they had probably been dating for probably about 6 months, is my best guess.
That is amazing. And that's like in that sweet spot where you're still in your very much in your honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
Um, my first note, and I actually put in quotations or whatever, that I hope that you know the reference. I just put in all caps, "What's in the box?" And all I had in my head the whole time is, "What's in the box?"
I feel like I should know that reference. It sounds so familiar. Oh god, I'm so sorry. I feel like I should know that reference and I
Okay,
don't.
I think I'm correct that it is from the correct movie. It's from a movie.
Okay.
Do you remember the movie Seven?
Never seen it.
So there's a movie called Seven, and it is
Okay.
like it's a crime movie essentially. It's very gruesome and gross and
Mm-hmm.
dark, but it's pretty much a murderer's doing like these things, all lining up with the seven deadly sins.
Gotcha.
I recommend the movie. Just be prepared that it is grotesque.
Okay.
But there's a scene in the movie where one of the guys, there's a box and the guy's just screaming because it's that a big point of the movie, but he just keeps screaming, "What's in the box?" And that's all I could think of the whole time. I need you to watch this movie though, because that's all you're gonna be thinking of is now Once Upon a Time when you see it. Um, but yeah, Seven. The Seven is I watched that at far too young of an age. I think I was about Autumn's age when I finally watched that. I should not have been watching that at the age I did, but that is how I ended up a horror fan, because I was like, what else is like this? And the things I discovered after were a 9-year-old should not be watching, but I did.
That's fair.
But yeah, damn, I was hoping you'd get it.
Honestly, I'm sorry. But to be fair, like, the reveal of what's in the box is kind of underwhelming.
Oh, I called it. I even timestamped my note of like,
Mm-hmm.
I said he's a writer. It's so obvious. 28 minutes and 40 seconds into the episode. And then not even like a minute later, I wrote under that, called it.
Oh, yeah.
It's so obvious.
It's ridiculously obvious. And unfortunately, like, there's multiple reveals with that box, and they're all underwhelming.
Like, why make it so obvious?
I don't know. The writers are being meta with it. I don't know.
A meta would make sense.
They get meta. I'll be honest. They do sometimes get pretty meta.
The writing was wonderful. He definitely sounded like a very annoying author.
Oh, yeah. No, he absolutely is.
Very good at that. I have to give them that one. And then I did have a good Regina and Emma moment. I love when these two slightly get along. They both really love Henry, and that makes me happy. Because Regina knows when she's coming to her of like, but it's Henry. And instantly they're getting along for like 2 seconds. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. That scene, and this is another like fandom brain rot thing for me. There's I don't even know what blog it was. It was a blog that did specifically like Swan Queen memes, and they used that scene a lot. But for one of them was there was the joke in the universe, in the fandom universe where the two of them are in a relationship. They're packing up for a weekend getaway, and for some reason that's why Emma's packing up the trunk, and Regina threatens her with she's like if you do this thing, I don't remember the context of this, but like all I remember is the punchline of it, which is which ends with Emma's kind of pouty kind of face, where she says, if you do this thing, like, I'm not taking any of your favorite toys. And she just goes, even Earl, which is the name of one of them.
Earl.
I don't remember the context or what was going on, but I remember even Earl because I made an icon for my Tumblr RP blog with that face, and I named it Even Earl.
All the names in existence.
I don't know. I don't
and
know.
And it's named Earl?
Yeah.
I think you broke me. I think that's
I'm so sorry.
That's the one. My god.
That's the one.
That's the one. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Moving on.
It's so funny. No, I did write. Well, Stealthy was short-lived.
The 8th dwarf. Stealthy.
Poor Stealthy.
You'll see him again.
God, I'm gonna have Earl in my mind for the rest of the day.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not.
No, not really.
So the line that really got me is when David is talking to Catherine, sits down and goes, "We should be in love." And I was just like, that is horrible.
Yeah, it's not a great line. And a lot of what Ginny and Josh talk about on in the commentary is the differences of the conflicts between the Storybrooke arcs and the Fairy Tale Land arcs, and how like in Fairy Tale Land it's more very external conflicts of there's someone out there we need to fight, and in Storybrooke it's a little more of these internal conflicts and all of that, because what they're missing in their curse personas, what they're missing from their fairy tale personalities, is the thing that could help them with their more internal conflicts of getting kind of in their own way. And David's thing of being indecisive and kind of not wanting to hurt anyone and therefore ends up hurting everyone kind of leads to that. Something that Ginny very specifically pointed out in that scene specifically was that people had expressed to her the dislike for the show almost kind of glorifying an affair in a way, because the two of them have feelings for each other, and we have this thing of they are technically married in this thing, but the counter to that is their marriage is fabricated. He's been in a coma for 28 years. They've never actually been married.
Yeah.
So is it really an affair? And then that also brings into question what of their Storybrooke lives is considered real. Like, if they've lived these lives for 28 years, is that considered real? Or is it just the segment that's happened since Emma's shown up? Which I think is a really interesting thing to think about.
Because time starts moving once Emma's there.
Exactly. Yeah, because things start changing.
And is that really what living is, when going through changes?
Exactly.
Which leads me to the other line that made me feel seen, I think is a good way
Mm-hmm.
of saying it. I need my pain. It makes me who I am.
I love that scene so much.
I almost cried. I was like, Grumpy, same.
They
I
gave him such good stuff. Lee Ehrenberg is such a
Such
good actor.
good. Yes. But no, they gave him all these amazing lines, but that line very much was just like, okay. See, I don't need therapy. I have this.
Exactly. We just listen to the
Also
dwarf.
still
It's
go to
fine.
therapy. I say that, but please people go to therapy.
Yes, please.
And then of course my last line is just, yes, kiss where everyone can see you.
That's a great way of keeping your affair under wraps. Is out in the open, in the middle of the street,
While Regina stares at you.
while Virginia stares at you from far away. Apparently, it was raining that entire morning, and the sun came out when the two of them started kissing. So, like when Mary Margaret runs out, you can see a little bit of sunshine. She's like, "We'd already started kissing. That's why the sun's out at this point."
That got me. I'm like, oh, we're having an affair. Let's let everyone see.
To be fair, they hadn't planned on meeting at that point. It was 7:45. Like, what are they doing there? It's the wrong time, and yet they still showed up at the same time.
I mean, I can't say they should have known. It is what it is. That's how it was written.
It's fate.
All right. I'm ready. What do you have for me?
You ready?
I have been geared up for this for a while now.
There are so many notes. It's really like under normal circumstances it gets chaotic. I did bold or highlight stuff this time like that I wanted to pull out because I think it's funny, but then I also pulled out stuff from the commentary because I made a whole separate section for the commentary because I knew it was going to be a lot, so I just made sure I did that. But then I also bolded specific things from the commentary to make it, pulling out things because it's a lot. Starting with one of my favorite lines, is just when Mary Margaret's rushing around the apartment at the very beginning, trying to get out the door so she can get to Granny's by 7:15. And Emma just goes, and she's like, I have to help the kids with the science fair project. And Emma's like, I think they'll, forgive you for being a little late. And she just goes, we're making a volcano.
Right? I loved that. The delivery was perfect.
It's the seriousness of that, but apparently, I'll kind of like pull from the commentary if things correlate. Apparently, in that scene, she actually has toothpaste in her mouth because she doesn't like when actors don't actually do that. She thinks it's more real and she has an easier time doing it if she actually has something. Like, so she actually had toothpaste in her mouth, which I think is cute.
That is cute. I like when actors actually do the thing.
Yeah, it makes it more real. She's not wrong.
It's like eating on set. I like it better when they're actually like eating something and not all pretending to take bites.
But then I feel bad if like how many takes they probably had to do for some of those things, like that, like just the imagining them eating whatever there is and like having to like spit it out because like they can't eat all of it.
I think I'm spoiled with Friends on that one because Joey's constantly eating.
Possibly. Emma's line of, so you're a stalker? No, not really. Well, maybe a little bit. Like when she breaks down his entire schedule.
I was like, y'all don't see the problem here? This is full on stalking. This is like people will literally get restraining orders for people who do this.
It was all the way down to and on Thursdays they get Chinese food. Like she went down that list.
It was bad. That was bad.
But it was funny.
I don't know what to say to this one.
It was funny. I don't know. Again, it's like they're cute, but like I mean, it's because it's them.
In another situation, it wouldn't be cute.
Yes, this is true. In a situation where we didn't know that they were actually true loves and they're actually married, it would be less cute.
That is fair.
One thing I did like, and I clocked this time, because this is the first time we're really seeing Red, like in Storybrooke, really doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's in, like, the pilot, but she's just kind of there. Like, she's not doing a whole lot, so she's actually, like, actively part of the plot. When she shows up, and Snow is, like, is trying to get information out of her, she says, I helped you when no one else would, which, weirdly enough, is not a dangling plot hole.
Yay!
We actually do see her helping her when no one else would.
Oh, thank goodness.
We see a little bit of it in season 1 and then more of it in season 2. So that's actually something they figured out, which I always give them props when I see these things that they actually follow through on.
I like when they follow through because there have been times when you're just like, yeah, nothing happens from this. Nothing.
No. Exactly. Sometimes Sometimes these things are just drops and like they don't come back to them because like sometimes they will bring in things that like I always say with this show, it's very overstuffed. But there are times when they do flesh things out, so I'm always happy about that. Not to bring us back to Earl, but that scene specifically.
Not to bring us back to Earl. Shit.
I'm just going down my notes, so we're kind of just like going back to the beginning of the episode and back through again. We're doing this like 4 times.
We do it because we love it.
I know. I'm so sorry to the people listening to this chaos.
No, I'm not.
Regina is really trying to figure out why a random person is taking an interest in her son. Like, that's not a bad thing. I know it's humorous for Emma to give her a hard time about not finding any laws against visiting Storybrooke, but like, this is not an outrageous thing for one co-parent to ask the other, especially when they're the mayor and the sheriff.
It is funny too, though, for Regina to constantly try to get Emma to leave and to leave Henry alone, but the moment that something's happening that pertains to Henry, she's like, nope, actually, I need your help. Like, I have to cooperate with you. Ugh. I don't want to, but I'm gonna.
Exactly. So my last like note from my first viewing, my slightly less unhinged viewing, like I said last time, the scene with Snow cavorting with dwarves would show up again, which we saw. Snow walking away with the dwarves out of King George's castle is the scene we see in Regina's mirror in True North. And like last week, you said you needed a timeline and some visuals. I have now made a timeline that Katie can follow along every week to make sure that things stay cohesive, because I've already made a full timeline. I'm just now updating hers as we go.
Which is very nice. It's just very funny because I get to have little like time periods. I love the time periods.
Yeah. Well, because when I made the original timeline for my Once Upon a Time TikTok account, originally I was going to do, before the curse, during the curse, and after the curse. I was going to do those whole things, which is why I call it before curse era BCE. It makes life easier for me. I kind of didn't do that, although I think I almost need to break down the season 1 Storybrooke arc time-wise, because things aren't quite adding up in my brain anymore now that I recognized Emma's line from last episode that she's been there a month. I now need to rework how some things fit, but I'm not gonna hurt myself too much.
King George is a jerk.
He is a jerk.
I did not like that.
He's never not a jerk, but he's a very good actor and very compelling to watch.
I can agree to that. He's still a jerk.
Yeah. He's still a jerk. He's apparently another one of like the actors who's like, he's a great villain, but just a very nice person.
I love that.
Yeah, they had nothing but nice things to say about him in the commentary, which I think is always nice.
I'm loving my little timeline.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, so a little timeline so Katie can keep up with how everything is working.
Because I usually cannot.
Yeah. So let me go back into my commentary notes because Lauren watched this episode twice.
Can you tell Lauren likes this episode?
I think you already know what my score is.
Is this your 30?
This is my first 30.
Nice.
But to be fair, I'm going to watch every episode that has commentary twice, regardless of how much I enjoy it. Season 1 just happens to predominantly have episodes that I enjoy that have commentary. So
now I feel the need to try and buy all of Bob's Burgers, but I can't afford that right now.
That's a lot of seasons.
Oh yeah, we are less than a week away from season 14.
Oh yeah. So so like I said earlier, the commentary was predominantly the two of them flirting with each other, which was just funny, and also Ginny commenting on the length of her hair, because it was kind of, she was growing it out kind of at this part of the season. Then after this, she she cut it again, so it was a little like not as long in the back. But apparently Josh is the one to thank for Ginny cutting her hair again, because he said, he's like, you said it was bothering you, so I said you should cut it, and then you did.
I feel that trying to grow my hair out now. I want to cut it all off again, but
one of my favorite scenes, and luckily there was a lot of commentary off of this one, the scene with Snow and Rumple on the dock. It's such an eerie scene, and it's like so much fun to watch. Apparently they built a lake like on a soundstage, like that's that whole setup is a soundstage. They built a lake, they fogged the whole thing. Apparently Josh was there to watch that day because I guess he had nothing else to do.
Well, his girlfriend's acting, or
Exactly, why not? During rehearsals, Ginny had the rowing of it just fine. She was no issues. The second they called action, she kept crashing the boat into the dock, which is very on brand for Ginnifer Goodwin.
it makes me want to go back and watch so much of the things she's been in.
I know. Something I do a lot is I play find the stunt double with her because they use her stunt double quite frequently. One of my weirdly not one of the best performing video I've ever made on my TikTok account has 1.4 million views, and it is me pointing out the oddity of how they edited around Ginnifer Goodwin running because they couldn't use her stunt double because all the shots were from the front. So like in one shot you can see her because she's got a line. In the next shot, she's on the complete other end of the line of people so she can be cut out of frame. And then when they still need her somewhat in frame, she is directly behind Josh. You can't even see her.
Is she that bad at running?
It's not that she's bad at running. I think she doesn't like the way that it looks. So according to someone in my comment section who worked on the show, it was by her request that they didn't show her as much as they could. So they used the stunt double, and I'm going to go with it's also a continuity thing.
Okay.
If you don't see, because she runs to use her own words, it's like she's trying to get her whole body up off the ground all at once. So she's kind of like afraid of the ground, which, to be fair, if you're afraid of the ground, you should not be running in forests where there are roots and rocks and things you can fall over.
I can agree to that.
So, but I also understand from a continuity standpoint, if they use the stunt double very often, they want to use her as little as possible. That way you're not questioning when it's the stunt double and when it's her. It just all looks very cohesive. That's what I have there. But so yeah, her crashing the boat into the dock is just on brand for her. So they needed to have people in the water in wetsuits and like black wetsuits just steering it so she wouldn't crash it into the dock anymore.
Oh no.
But something she said about that scene was she always has to remind herself that she has to be that she's afraid of Rumpelstiltskin because Robert Carlyle is such a lovely, wonderful man that she just loves him. So she's like, I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of him. So she can act a certain way. And then we see what we see on screen, which is this very cool dynamic because he was so creepy in that scene.
So creepy. He's good at being creepy. He's a very phenomenal actor. I like Rumple is not fun to watch.
No, he's very good at acting creepy. He's very good at what he does. And apparently the hair that they pulled off of her, they had to rig like a huge chunk of it because hair will not show up on camera very much. So they really had to like rig like almost like she said like almost an entire ponytail. It looks weird in person, but to see it on screen, it looks like a few strands. Just so they could get that shot right, which I think is very cool. Like I like these little behind the scenes things, which is why I love the commentary.
I loved it. See, I'm learning so much that I had no idea about.
Exactly. So fun fact, it's like a blink and you miss it scene in the pharmacy scene with Mary Margaret and Catherine. Again, with the whole Regina loves her son, dang it. Amongst her supplies for the storm, Regina is holding a copy of Fantastic Four number 236. So amongst her supplies, she was getting her son a new comic book.
That is so sweet.
Like, I love it. It's so adorable. It's like she loves him. Like I love that he loves stories in all the ways that they manifest. So, like it's not just his book. He also loves comic books and superheroes, which I think is very, very
I love that.
Cute.
Because it's very on point. My child's obsessed with graphic novels. So, age accurate.
Yeah. All reading is valid reading.
Yes. All reading is... Oh, thank you. Yes. And that is not up for debate.
No, it is not.
Nope.
What we were saying before about Josh being on set just because his girlfriend was filming. So the letter that he wrote, that Charming writes to Snow, is actually his handwriting. He actually wrote that out. And the scene where she's reading it when she gets the from the dove, which the doves that they use are not actually doves, they're honing pigeons. North Atlantic doves don't exist.
I was like, I don't think that exists. Like, what? That didn't sound like anything I've ever heard of.
Completely made up. I looked it up. They don't exist.
Not that I know a lot about birds. It just didn't sound right.
No, I know, but I'm like, oh, this is too specific to be real. So I looked it up if I can find it in my notes. Yeah, so they just made up a bird species. The only dove native to the northern United States is the mourning dove that looks nothing like the birds used. It's a cool plot point, but ornithologically inaccurate.
I like that word. I can't say it, but I like it.
Yeah. I'm surprised I said it with such accuracy. So the scene though, with her reading the note, they did a couple versions of that where originally it was going to be like Charming in silhouette with Snow like walking back and forth or what have you. But eventually we ended up with the version where we have where she's reading it and we just hear his voiceover. Um but they didn't have a script for him. He was on set because he was supposed to be in shot, but they just changed their minds. But they didn't have a script for him. So what they ended up doing was he just had to say nice things about her, and she had to react because the letter she had wasn't even the letter with like what was supposed to be on it either. It was like a blank piece of paper. So he's just
Mhm.
off. Like just imagine like you're acting, and your boyfriend of a few months is off camera just saying nice things about you. Like it's just too adorable.
Can he get my husband to do that for me? I wouldn't mind a few nice things being said.
It'd be nice.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, right? On the topic of talking about how adorable these two are, because I literally put in our notes, insert time to gush about Ginny and Josh, because
Mm-hmm.
it was going to happen with these commentary. Something we talked about when I needed to rant the other day kind of comes up with this. So I took some notes on this topic because it's something that I tend to get very heated about, and I do want to do this as civilly as possible. And like with the gushing about Ginny and Josh, it brings into question the topic of real person shipping,
Mm-hmm.
which is a thing in fandom, and it's a thing that I don't have great feelings about, but I'm gonna try and not.
And it was something that is entirely new to me because I had no idea this existed.
It's big, especially it was big with the Once Upon a Time fandom, which is why I have feelings about it. So, the definition of real person shipping, I mean, it's the name is kind of a given, but it's any type of shipping that involves real people, so not their characters, but the actors themselves. In fan fiction, it's usually depicted with the tag RPF for
Mm-hmm.
real person fiction. I am not talking about this in a way to ship shame or fic shame anyone, because quite frankly, if you're just doing this in fan fiction or with your friends, whatever, as long as everyone's consenting people and you're not hurting anybody, I really don't care. Like, I won't seek out RPF tag stuff on AO3. That doesn't mean I think people shouldn't write it, as long as everyone involved is age appropriate.
And as long as you're not sending it to the people who are in it.
That's my thing, is when you involve the actors in it, that's when I feel like we're crossing a
Mm-hmm.
boundary. Like, shipping people who are actually in a relationship, like Ginny and Josh, I have no issue with this. I'm like, oh my god, they're
Yeah.
so adorable, but I'm still probably not going to tell that to their faces, like other than like maybe like commenting hashtag goals on one of their Instagram posts.
Oh. Like, we can think it's adorable.
Yeah, we can think it's adorable, but like it's when you involve the actors in your real person ship in a way that they didn't consent to,
Mm-hmm.
basically, is when you try and like I don't even know how to phrase this. The way that I wrote it down my notes is people insisting that two actors who were friendly on set, but otherwise not really close, were secretly dating and asking them at conventions continually about their relationship, platonic or otherwise, feels like an immense violation of the actors' personal lives to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the ship in question, but I do think people can fill in the blanks if they've been in fandom for the same amount of time that I have.
And while I understand that a lot of people have the opinion of, well, they're public figures, they are letting this into their lives. Some things are still private. Some things, regardless if you're a public figure, putting yourself out there, part of your life is your life. It's still private.
Exactly. And I wrote that down. I'm like, they have commodified themselves to an extent by being actors. Absolutely. But they understand this, but that does not give fans the right to commodify them further
Mm-hmm.
than they're comfortable with. Like in the case of the ship that I'm not going to say by name, one person is very good at deflecting, one person tends to make it fairly obvious how uncomfortable it makes them, which leads me to believe, why do people keep asking them? They get this, it's like they don't want to accept the answer of, we worked well together, and that's pretty much where
Like,
it
leave it
ends.
at
Like,
that.
yeah, like I understand that there are some relationships from, especially from Once Upon a Time, that people are still friends. They're still very very close. And one of the other examples that I have, where I say it could conceivably be okay to ship them, is because they play into it because they are just such really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they're on my wall. I'm realizing, not that anyone can see, but so I have a signed picture of Lana Priya because I have met her very, very, very briefly, and another actor who you haven't met yet. She comes in season 3. This is Rebecca Mader.
Oh, okay.
So the two of them are very, very good friends. Their ship name is Bexana because Bex, Lana. Um, they play into it, I think, on purpose. Like, I say this as a joke, and legally, I'm putting a legal disclaimer here. I am talking out of my ass. I don't have any. I'm not saying any of this is real. This is all. I'm not even speculating. It's literally a joke. Like, if it ever came out that they were sleeping together all along, no one would be surprised. But I'm not saying that to the actors' faces.
Yeah, let's not. I don't think it's a good idea.
We're not including them in this, but also like I don't ship them in. It's more of like no one would be shocked. Like there's multiple bloopers of them
Yeah.
humping in the background of things.
Didn't we also say before in our conversation that isn't on here? Obviously, I think I remember saying like there's certain things you watch when you do have two actors together that you're like their chemistry is so good you wouldn't be surprised if there are underlying feelings or a different type of relationship behind doors. So because I'm sure there's been plenty of relationships that have happened between actors that were just like, yeah, they met on this movie. You could totally tell how well they vibed with each other. And so it's not a surprise if they end up together. It's just like, okay, no, that makes sense. But you don't have to like take it further than that.
Exactly. And I think some people do. And also, I think Once Upon a Time isn't helping things with Ginny and Josh actually getting together. But with other ships that have happened where people really latch on to the chemistry of the two actors so much so that they almost don't want to accept that they have relationships outside the show, there's some disconnect where they tend to forget that actors are actors. They're hired to do a job because they have really good chemistry with each other, and if their characters are written into relationships, that's because the chemistry is there. That's great, but that's all that it is. It's acting. Yeah. That's their job.
And we definitely have an understanding as well when you are very much into a show, when a show is literally like does help your mental health and is there for you, and you get really, really invested in the characters and the actors. I do understand how people take it farther, but it doesn't make it okay. Because I do. Exactly. I completely understand that it's I mean, look at the both of us. We're literally running a podcast on 2 shows because that's what we love. And I watch Bob's Burgers almost I'm gonna say daily because I've already watched some today too.
That's fair. It happens.
It happens every day. But it's just you can still be very invested in some form of media and not take it to the point where it's actively harming somebody's life, because you can reach a point for some of these people like why would you want to keep doing conventions if that question is constantly asked?
Exactly. And again, the ship that I'm not mentioning by name because I don't even know if I pronounce it correctly, so I'm just not going to. But
fair.
But also, I think most people at this point, anyone who's in the Once Upon a Time fandom, to an extent, I think they know what ship what real person ship I'm dancing around. The two actors, once the show was over, did not go to the same conventions, or if they did, they only went on separate days, on purpose, because those things kept coming up.
And I hate that for them.
I really do, because they were friendly on set. They worked really well together. It comes through in their characters. We get where the chemistry comes from, but there comes a point where you need to see acting and reality. And I'm of the opinion that we take them at their word until otherwise proven. So I would rather be wrong and respect someone's boundaries than pressure them to figure out if I'm right.
I feel like not everybody has a full understanding of different types of relationships as well, because there are jokes that you and I make with each other that other people would be like, what's going on there? But for you and I, it's all fun and games. It's jokes.
We flirt with each other in front of our friends.
But it's all for fun, because love you, but you are really far away.
Yeah, well, I would say at a certain point, your hobby just becomes flirting with your friends.
Exactly.
I fully understand the Bexana situation of at some point flirting with your friends just becomes your hobby and how you find enjoyment out of your day. I used to say that I want a best friend relationship like the two of them where you confuse people about your sexuality. But then I remember that my best friend of 20 years now was my +1 to my brother's wedding. And because she loves me, she loves my brother, and she's really fun to have at weddings. And her goal, and I just jumped onto this, was to make the guests be confused about our relationship and go, gal pals or gal pals? I'm not sure which one. We convinced, I think, one family friend who's known her for as long as he's known me, or he's known her the entire time she's been around. But also, I think we convinced the woman that worked at the card store when we stopped to get a card for her to give for the gift.
Just want to say, I am also a wonderful guest at weddings and would also be that friend to you. Hands down, that sounds like a wonderful time.
We had fun.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I'm so happy.
Bringing us back to the notes about the episode after that 10-minute tangent, my apologies. As we were talking earlier about hair and how all that goes, when they were filming the scene, or they showed the scene when they were out in the woods right before it started pouring, Ginny called that hairstyle her Jufro because it was curling up in the back, and it's just so you could hear in her voice she was so not feeling her hair in that scene anymore. She was, I think, almost immediately, I think by the next episode her hair is cut.
Oh, I'll find out probably in 2 days when I watch it.
Yeah, it's I don't remember specifically because the next one she's wearing a wig. Not important. Leading into that scene when it just starts downpouring, right? This is Vancouver. It's raining all the time. It wasn't raining that day.
Of course not. Not when you need it.
No, exactly. So they had to bring in manufactured rain. I think only once did it rain so much, but they could not film, that they inserted umbrellas that were not already in the scene. It was just a few people outside at night talking, but it was raining and normally you can't see the rain, so they just film through it because it's usually so fine. But it was raining so bad. This is from season 4. And they couldn't delay filming any longer. They literally just gave the 2 pairs of people umbrellas. It was a very film noir kind of thing, and it's a very cool style choice, but it was a fact of the rain was too bad. Oppositely, in this scene, when they needed it to rain, it's not raining.
As someone who loves rain, that's funny.
They had to, when you need it to rain, it's not raining. So they had to manufacture rain, which they couldn't heat because apparently when you heat rain, when it's that temperature outside, you'll see steam.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they couldn't heat it, so they ended up.
So her shivering is real, huh?
Yeah, her shivering is real. So I don't think I said the director earlier. Ralph Hamaker, I think is his name. Apparently, he only made them do that once or twice. Okay. So just to make sure they got it, not to keep them outside in the rain too much. But we will see that cabin many times, and I know who owns the cabin.
Stop hinting things.
Make me.
You're very far away. Look, I'm just happy we're on the same time zone.
I know, right? So yeah, I just have more. Commence the flirting.
Lots of flirting.
Something that I did find really interesting about Grumpy. So he's played by Lee Arenberg. He was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yes.
For those who know.
I knew.
Yeah.
I knew something while watching. I was like, I know that face.
He's so good. He's so good as Grumpy. He's so good in Pirates
yes.
too, but he's so good as Grumpy. The other 7, because there's 8 of them, but the other 7/6 are all Vancouver actors that they hired. And they didn't want to go with actual little people because I think they thought that might be a little obvious for who could this person be? She's surrounded. All of her friends are very, very short people. So I think the joke is, I don't remember where I got this from, but the joke with it is that it's Snow White and the 7 Tom Cruise sized actors.
I cannot tell you how much I love that.
I think it was Ginny who says that. I think.
I love that so much as someone who does not like Tom Cruise.
I don't like him either. My last funny one, and then I have one more kind of informational one, or it's kind of funny one.
Yeah.
We can do that after notes, after stats. Not that you don't already know what my stats are. If it wasn't evident by now, if I hadn't said
right?
what my wonder what Lauren's score could be if she hadn't said it already.
Oh no, how could I ever figure that out?
I don't know. But actually, into this one. So I had a point with the Lee Arenberg thing.
Oh.
So they were all Vancouver actors, but they would fly him up every time because he was from LA. So he is recurring the entirety of the show.
Yay!
They flew him up whenever, he's never main cast. They just flew him up whenever they needed him because they really liked him. He's so good as Grumpy.
He's amazing.
And actually, his story, when I was listening to it, I'm like, this is a plot hole. But then I realized it's not. It actually takes place after the flashback that we will see of him in a few episodes. So I've been listening to it, thinking of it of them changing the story. I'm like, no, that actually, we don't see it, but it happens after the main
Mhm.
flashback of his that we see, which is why I almost docked it a plot point. But then I'm like, no, that's not a plot hole. I've just been mislistening to that. I like was committed to hearing a plot hole all this time, so I did.
You expected it.
Yeah. So my last funny one before we go into our so surprising stats was in the scene when Snow is she's hiding from Charming, and she drops the letter before she gets captured. The two of them are talking about something, and then she says, weren't you there that day? About a split second before Josh walks into frame, he goes, yeah, because there I am. Because the two of them are just like, she's like, yeah, some days you're the actor that's just like BS 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 my line. It's like I'm looking through the script. BS BS my line. So just the two of them talking, and like just the whole like, weren't you there that day? Yep, there I am. Like, oh yeah, you're in the scene. Is just half of their commentary, honestly.
It's like, did we work together that day? Because
I don't remember.
I don't remember. They're probably spending a lot of their time together regardless, too.
Oh yeah.
On and offset.
Yeah, the joke I think from the Whitney Cumming podcast, when she was saying like that, like they waited until the fall before they started dating, but no one believes us. And then like Whitney's just like, no, I believe it because I had to listen to it every day.
Oh my goodness.
So what score did you give this, Katie?
So I gave it an 8 for character, because
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. Like I said, the king's a jerk. So
Yeah.
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Personally, it's like a 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave the plot a 7 as well. So it is
Okay.
actually a 22 for me, which
Okay.
is very much not the same as it is
No,
for
it's
you.
not.
Very different.
No.
I'm not huge on romance. I thought it was adorable. I thought it was enjoyable. But romance is just not my
No, it's okay.
go-to.
It's fine. We don't have to like the same things. I am
We do
not. I am
not.
not offended. I'm not offended that this is not one of your favorite
But
episodes.
I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to you talk about it and learn all the things.
I
Very
warned you.
I was prepared.
I wasn't prepared for quite how much I would add with the commentary. In case anyone missed it, 45 minutes ago. This is my first perfect score episode. This gets a 10 for character, a 10 for plot, and a 10 for personal. Because I just thoroughly enjoy this episode. And when I watched this, not this time, obviously, because I knew I was watching with the commentary, but when I watched it for my last statistical analysis rewatch, when I was doing it for my TikTok account, I remembered, because I'd watched this commentary so many times, I remembered points with the commentary while I was watching it. Like that, especially for the season 1 commentary episodes, not so much the next one, but the one after it. So the disc 4 commentary episode, because I watched that one a lot. I could like remember a lot of like the commentaries that I watched the most, I think, were this one and the one from disc 4, which I will not tell you what episode that is.
And I'm not going to ask.
It will become very apparent very quickly.
I just enjoy seeing your joy.
I got a lot of joy out of this one specifically, but like in general, I mean, I love doing this. This is my happy place.
I feel like you needed this today too.
I really needed this today. This has made my mood so much better. My last note before we leave us that I really enjoyed, especially with last week when the scene about that ended with Mary Margaret saying to Emma, you do kind of have my chin, which chin. To be fair, they do look very similar.
Very similar.
Throughout the whole episode, they were just kind of gushing about the other actors and like how good they are in these scenes, which I love hearing that because they all really like each other. But Ginny and Jennifer Morrison used to get confused for each other a lot when Ginny's hair was very long and Jen was dyeing her hair brown for House. They do look fairly similar. I don't know if I'd go as far as to really mistake one for the other.
How did I not see that connection? It's the hair.
That Jennifer Morrison was on House?
How did I not realize that's the same person?
Oh, I don't know.
My brain hurts now.
She's only a brunette, I think, for the first 3 seasons. I think when she's no longer a series regular, when she goes to work like in the emergency room or whatever, I think then she stops dyeing her hair. But actually, I think she's a brunette again. Like now.
That hurt my brain. I'm
so sorry.
I did not realize I hadn't made the connection yet.
Yeah.
I love her. Oh my god.
She's wonderful. She really is. But they used to get confused for each other so much so that they would sign each other's headshots and like do interviews with each other separately. Like they didn't decide that collectively. I don't know if they really knew each other that well, but apparently they're just both fans of each other's work. It's not worth correcting people every time it happens.
Yeah.
So they apparently separately decided that they would just go along with it whenever it happened, which I think is really funny, especially given that they ended up working together as mother and daughter.
That's actually really hilarious because all that's on my TikTok lately is the videos of the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers
Mm-hmm.
doing like he's drumming to songs that he hasn't heard before and can't hear the
Mm-hmm.
drums too. But he looks
Okay.
exactly like Will Ferrell.
Hmm.
Like exactly. I'll have to send it to you, but no, he looks yeah.
Okay.
Which is that's all I've seen this week is that.
Yesterday I texted you that I double checked the timing of certain things from the Comic-Con
Yeah.
bit from the last one's episode, and I just went down like a nice deep dark rabbit hole of old Comic-Con videos from Once Upon a Time, because it's just, they're almost like comfort videos. I've watched so many of them, and like it's a similar feeling for me that this so many years later. It's like looking at like videos or like photos of like me and my friends, even though I don't know these people. Like we can do a thing on parasocial relationships another day.
Definitely.
But with like watching those videos, like I remember that time in the fandom, like when these videos came out, when all this stuff was new. I remember watching them when I was, at this point 18, 19 years old and all that. And it brings back that same feeling of nostalgia without my actually being in the videos. It's a very strange feeling.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burgers Season 2, Episode 5, Food Truckin', and Season 2, Episode 6, Dr. Yap. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. And follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.